I share my testimony often, but I have yet to share it on video. Um, so I'll start right after college. Right after school, I moved from Florida A&M University, Tallahassee, Florida, to Los Angeles, California with a job. I'm not one of those people that ran off to LA talking about, oh, I'm gonna pursue my dream. Don't get me wrong, nothing's wrong with that. But I went to LA with a job. And I got laid off after the very first month of working there. I look up and I'm like, you've gotta be kidding me. I've traveled across the country and now you're telling me I don't have employment? Like, this can't be happening to me. I grew up middle class, I grew up privileged, I grew up having. I turn up, I have run out of money. I moved from my apartment to my car. And I was like, okay, I'll figure this out. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, born and raised, and anybody who knows anything about Detroiters, we got plenty of hustle, plenty of work ethic. I'm like, I'll figure it out. I applied for 150 jobs, nobody hired me. Temp agencies, next thing you know, time has gone on. I'm meeting people, sleeping on their couch, sleeping on people's floors. The list just goes on and on. They have to get put out the apartment. I'm back to the car. I'm like, what is going on? So through this, I'm still don't get employment. I applied for, like I said, over 150 plus jobs. By this time, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I've been through undergrad, grad school. I got a lot of education. I can't get a job? Not heard of. Like I said, I grew up having too. So still trying to figure it out, money is very low. I'm on welfare, food stamps. Car breaks down one time that I'm living out of. Even had to check into a shelter at one point. I'm selling my clothes so I can eat and put food in my mouth and gas in the tank just to survive. I'm like, I'll figure this out. I was in pretty good spirits most of the journey. And what I mean by that is I would drive around Beverly Hills. I would see the houses. I would see the cars. Trust me, LA had plenty of luxurious cars. And I'm like, I can do this. They got it. They have it. I can do this too. So I would use the drive around Beverly Hills like a motivator. Through time, I was encouraged for the most part. I did have a time where I just broke down. I called my mother and I said, Mom, if this is what life is like, I don't see a need to live. And by no means I wouldn't classify myself as suicidal at that point, but I will say I was definitely depressed. I was exhausted. I was just exhausted. I was tired of living in the car, tired of being broke, tired of having to sell my clothes to eat. I was just exhausted. People would say, well, you can go home. Well, at that time, my parents were unfortunately, they were in a divorce case. And I'm like, okay, I'm used to be able to call on you all for money. What's going on here? So it was really a time where my faith in Christ just grew very, very strong because the resources that I was used to being able to call on to bail me out of a situation weren't available. So all I could do was turn to God, who is the ultimate source, who funnels through whatever source he needs to use in order to get you what it is that you need to get. So pretty much this went on for like about a good few months, and then somebody called me to do some PR and marketing work for them. It was from that one job I had, somebody took notice of me and their spouse needed help with a project. I'm like, yes, but by this time I would have swept floors, I would have painted walls, I would have cleaned toilets, whatever needed to get done to get me off my feet, I was willing to do. I'm like, whatever worked. My pride is out the window. At this point, pride has got to go. I could care less about what anybody thinks of me, what anybody's gonna say, oh my gosh, and she just left school to go be a janitor or a waitress. Who the heck cares? I wanted to eat. I had been 7 days without food when I got that call. I'm like, yes, thank you, Jesus. So from there, they referred me to somebody else, who referred me to somebody else, and in like 2 weeks, I got like literally 5 to 7 projects going on. I'm like, wait a minute, mind you, at this time I'm 23. I'm like, okay, I'm making some good change. But I knew I still couldn't afford an apartment that would be so-called fit to be entertaining people and clients. So I reached out to one of my sorority sisters, and she helped me get office space at 5900 Wilshire. And the thing about this office space was that we were on the 26th floor, but on the 19th floor was the Happening Hip Hop Station. And Steve Harvey had his morning show there. It was 100.3 The Beats. Not there anymore, but it was there then. So my routine was I would shower in the morning at LA Fitness on the bottom floor. I would go upstairs. Security, they was aware I was living in the building. Sorry, let me even backtrack a little bit. When I had her help me get office space, I did that instead of going to get an apartment. So I'm living in the office. So security is tipping me off to who's on the morning show at the radio station. They even got my business cards, passed them out to the celebrities as they go up to the elevator. So I'm like, cool, I got them in on this. They calling me 8 a.m. They're like, hey, Kanye West down on 19. Hey, Nick Cannon down on 19. So every morning I'm up. I'm hustling, I'm making contacts, doing whatever I gotta do to build this business. I'm like, okay, I got this, I got this, I got this. Then one day, Coach Carter found me asleep in the office. I was a little embarrassed, but turned out to be a huge blessing. He was doing business on the floor with Tridestin Studios. That's my special Indy Brown's company. So I was like, oh, okay. He was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing in here? And he's like, oh my gosh, you're living in here. I was like, no, coach, it's really okay. It's really okay. I'm doing well. Trust me, the storm is over. I've been through worse. He was like, no woman should be living like this. And I was like, no, trust me, I'm okay. I said, shower at LA Fitness, get up in the morning. I said, I got a routine going on. He was like, no. He said, how much money have you made? I said, Coach, I made $9,000 last month. I thought I was balling out of control. I said, but I'm saving it because I'm going to get me an apartment. He said, baby, this is LA. $9,000 last month is good, but you don't know what you're making the next month, and we don't know how far that's going to go or how long that's going to last. He said, let me help you. I said, well, okay. Well, how you going to help me? He said, I'm going to get Paramount to cut you a check. I said, Paramount Studios? Mind you, I'm 23 from Detroit, Michigan. I've never heard of studios cutting people checks for any reason. So I'm like, okay, how does this work? He said, no, the movie studios, they outsource people to do PR and marketing services. He said, so what you're currently doing, they can use you on my film. I was like, really? I was like, okay. Well, I didn't work on the movie long because it was about to come out. So I pretty much just booked press to come to screenings, and that was just pretty much the gist of it. But from that experience, it exposed me to let me know, wait a minute, movie studios do outsource people for this type of work. So I called Will Packer and Rob Hardy from Rainforest Films, and at this time, they were gearing up for Stomp the Yard. And I remembered them from when I was in college and owned my boutique. They would put up their posters for their DVDs. So I was like, let me call them, see what I can do. So I let them know what I had going on, and they got me an interview over at Sony Pictures. I met with Eric Paquette, he was an SVP at Sony Screen Gems at the time, and I was just like, okay. Went to breakfast, and it was just wonderful. Fell in love with me. He was like, oh, I love what you're doing. I think you'll be a great asset. You're on board. So we started off doing like pre-publicity during the castings, things of that sort. Then I had to go and interview for the unit publicist position for Stomp the Yard. That's when I met Danielle Misher. And I was telling her about what I had done, and she said, you know what, but for this position, you're up against 2 other people, and they have experience. And I was like, oh, okay, but I have a mentor. I met Rod Stevenson through somebody who I met at the radio station. And when I said her name, it was like solid gold. She's she is the first Black exec over at Universal, and she was headed towards retirement. She had left Universal, started her own company, but when I said her name, it was solid gold. So I called Roz. I said, Roz, I dropped your name in the interview. I got the job. What do I do now? And she was just like, honey, come to my house. I will teach you everything I know about PR and marketing as far as how to do publicity and promotions to promote a movie. So from then on, Stomp the Yard becomes #1 movie 2 weekends in a row. 3rd urban film in history to do so. And the studio gives me another film, which is this Christmas, another film, First Sunday, and from then on, I don't even know the order of which they came. It's been Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins over at Universal. It's been Hancock, Quantum of Solace, James Bond, the 007s, Taking a Pelham. The list is countless at this point. It's like I can't even think of all of them. Takers. Recently worked on Limitless with Robert De Niro and Bradley Cooper. That was a dream of mine because Heat is my favorite movie of all time. So I was excited about that. The list just goes on and on and on. Recently finished doing Sparkle, being a unit publicist. That was shot in my hometown, Detroit, Michigan. So the list just goes on and on and on. But from there, the whole movie experience, I got to meet a lot of wonderful people. Got to work in the music industry as well. From Stomp the Yard, I met Chris Brown. I was his tour publicist 2006, 2007, 2008 for the Up Close and Personal tours. Truly, truly God sent. I got to meet Lil Wayne from that first tour, from the Up Close and Personal first tour. That was a blessing. We clicked immediately. Got to do personal publicity for him. Got to do event planning for his 25th birthday party. And the list can just go on and on and on. Jazzy Faye, David Banner. I love, love, love my old clients. Let me see, what was next? Well, my testimony in itself has brought birth to a lot of the other things that I currently do now, which is my Live Your Dreams program, where we educate the youth about non-traditional careers. It has brought birth to Fearless Magazine, which is a platform for other people to share their fearless journeys, just like I'm sharing mine with you all, to inspire others. What else? Anything I pretty much do now has been, a lot of those things have been birthed from that one experience. But I give God the glory, the honor, and praise. And I understand that, to whom much is given, much is required. So I make sure I share the story as much as possible and just give back and just encourage others that you can live your dreams, you can overcome your fears. You are put here for a reason. You are worthy. And it's time for you to, get filled up and live out your purpose in life, your dreams, etc.